The Godfather is considered as one of the greatest movies ever made by many polls and many film critics. So, in this episode, I have invited a very special guest. His name is Mr. Baradwaj Rangan. So, Mr. Baradwaj Rangan is one of the film critics for Film Companion and an award winning film critic as well. So, in this episode, Mr. Baradwaj Rangan and I will be discussing our love for this great film called The Godfather. So, do check it out this film first and then watch the spoiler filled conversation between me and Baradwaj Rangan. Hi Bharatwaj sir, welcome to Spoiler Alert with me, Cinephile Sanket. So sir, we are discussing one of your favorite films, which is The Godfather, which is directed and co-written by Francis Ford Coppola. And so, first of all, I'll introduce the film. It is about Vito Corleone and the Corleone family, who actually is in trouble after Vito Corleone getting shot by some other drug lord. And like what the chaos happens in the Corleone family is the like the next thing in the film. So I wanted to ask you, what was your experience watching this film?
I watched this first in school, I think, and then I watched it many times afterwards. It's I think one of the handful of films that for me is a downright masterpiece from start to finish, and any number of times I've seen it. The rhythm, the staging, the cinematography, the acting, every damn thing works. It's just so difficult to and I think best of all uh, is that quasi operatic treatment that Coppola gives this what is essentially a crime drama. He makes a crime drama a kind of a family drama, and I think that's of course that's part of Puzo's book as well. But then Coppola also removed a lot of the Puzo stuff that was there. So that's a little more hard hitting and pulpy. Whereas what Coppola did was almost like he reimagined it as a as an operatic thing, and I think it's just completely marvelous.
But sir, you said about, like, you just mentioned that the opera thing. Like, I didn't get it. What's that actually?
So, opera is about emotions, very emotions that are declared at a very high level. And here he kind of the way he stages things. It's almost like a moving like opera. How you transform it to cinema, rather like instead of people on stage declaring their emotions, everything here is like a classic example would be the way the Michael killing the cop,
The inspector
the
and Solozzo.
yeah, Solozzo, that scene is a classic example of how opera on screen would look, because he uses the sound of the train, he uses the sound of Michael's heartbeat, he uses the sound of like every damn thing that you can kind of use, and they're exaggerated sounds. That's what I mean. So it's not. See, the train normally sounds one way, but when Michael is coming out of the toilet after grabbing the gun, the train sound increases. So we hear what is in Michael's head, how he's feeling. It's not the natural train sound. It's an exaggerated train sound, which has just and we've heard the natural train sound just a few minutes earlier, so we know what that sounds like. So that's what I'm talking about, the sudden raising of the element of, see, it's not a naturalistic film, it exists at that level, an expressionistic level. And I think it's beautiful. I think Walter Murch's sound design, everything is just outstanding in that movie.
Oh wow! So for me also, the experience was very similar. Actually, I watched this film after you like suggested it in the Young Critics, the MAMI Young Critics Lab list, and according to list, I had to watch this film. And obviously, since I was a very early cinephile back then, in like 2017, I guess, yeah. So I watched it and I enjoyed it, like just as a cinephile would enjoy it. And like I later rewatched it many times since, to like how Coppola blocked a scene, like in like first only in the first scene only, he didn't tell us that there were like so many of the men who were sitting in the room, but there was just the Undertaker, who was, I forgot the name, but and the Godfather. They were just
Bonacera.
discussed Bonacera,
Yeah.
exactly. So but then after that, after just a few minutes, we are introduced by his consigliere, his son, and like his close advisors, and that's the beauty of it. And even I liked about this film that this was actually a very uh, like I would say very good, like mm, a painful truth. This film actually tells a very painful truth about the justice system in America. Like in the first monologue itself, this like this is one of those films which actually criticize the justice system in America very smartly. Even like also I actually also like the intercutting of various scenes in the film. So we all talk about the christening scene at the end, in the end of the film, but there were many instances there where the intercutting happened, where like I think when Tom Hagen was when he was getting like not kidnapped, I would say, but he was just those drug dealers was just picking up to like they were taking to another place, and like there was just so much great editing happening in like they were actually telling stories which were happening in a 1 hour timeline in such great editing. So I wanted to ask you which was your favorite scene in this film.
What's my favorite scene? Uh, Probably the last scene. But there's like a whole bunch of scenes that I love. The scene where the dawn is shot, the way it's staged when you kind of follow Fido's point of view for the most time, and the camera's at eye level, and suddenly when the dawn is shot, you get a God's eye point of view as he falls on the ground earlier and goes to the hospital. I love the scene like where today just kills me every time I'm at that wedding and and Michael says, "That's my family, Kay. That's not me." And then by the end, he's kind of become that very family, and he closes the door on her. I mean, I could just go on. I mean, this is every scene is in this film and Godfather Part Two. Every scene is a classic. I mean, there's not a single scene that can be taken out of the movie and kind of kind of a thing. Though I'm not sure I understand you. For me, this is not a criticism of the justice system or anything like that. This is more about a person who decided that he would be his own form of justice, and that continued in kind of a thing. And slowly, what the Dawn thought, which is that I'm going to protect my people, slowly became a form of organized crime. Because in order to keep that protection, it assumed the form of criminal activity, and that's why Michael inherits not the father's goodness in wanting to protect his people through this. He's saying, okay, if I kill the dad is at least saying, if I kill this person, then at least I'm protecting somebody from my community who would typically not get police protection. But then as the mantle passes on to Michael, it's no longer about just protecting the community. It's about maintaining a certain position, like all the activities that they've gotten into, the drugs, the this, the that. So it's a very different thing. It's a very tragic story of um, a family that kind of that starts with one kind of ideal, and then just that spirals out of control. And actually, what Coppola wanted was to make Godfather Part 3 about Tom Hagen. So he wanted to make Part 1 about Sonny gets killed in Part 1, Frida gets killed in Part 2, and Tom Hagen dies in Part 3 is what Coppola wanted to do. He wanted to kind of completely say Michael's the only brother left, and all the other brothers die because of whatever he kind of wanted to do. but then Coppola couldn't get Tom Hagen Robert Duvall on board because of financial negotiations. So finally, he had to redo the whole plot and things like that.
Oh wow, I didn't knew that, like, because I was actually like watching part three. I was actually missing Robert Duvall like so much, like because I love like him in this film, and as well as in the part two as well. Because I personally, like, after watching this film many times, I was invested in his character, and actually wanted to see his role, like much, like his character much wider, because I actually wanted to like want a sequel, not a sequel, sorry, a prequel, a backstory of him getting, like, joining the Coppola family and becoming a lawyer, and I just want to see his character grow more. I like personally want to see. But since you have, like, have you read the book, the original book
Yeah.
by? So have, like, what was the difference? Like, did you see in this, in the book and the film?
The events are mostly the same, but the treatment is very different. In the book, it's very sexy, pulpy, flashy. The movie treats it in a more operatic, lyrical fashion. So that's the difference. It's the books, and a lot of the stuff in the book is taken out. For example, in the book, Sunny's mistress has a much bigger role. Whereas she just comes here for 1 second, and then like there's just one very short scene, and then she's there in part three. She makes a reappearance because her son is the one, that Andy Garcia character. So yeah, so there are a bunch of things. There's a whole subplot about the Frank Sinatra like singer who's not getting his thing and all that kind of stuff, which is
Johnny
here.
Fontaine, I think.
John D. Fontaine. Here it's not that much of a thing, but yeah, but the book is it's a big book. It's like I mean, this is also a big movie, but here the essence is concentrated on the family, whereas in the book it kind of it divides itself among a lot of players. Yeah.
Oh wow! So, like, what do you think about the directing, like in the first film? Like,
The Coppola's direction.
yeah.
Oh, it's marvelous. I mean, I don't even know how to describe this because it's see, directing is basically, it's a tough job to describe because it's like, what does a director do? He basically, like with a cinematographer, he shoots, he captures the images in a film. A music director makes the music. A costume designer designs the costume. What does the director do? The director kind of basically ensures that all of these individual contributions have his stamp or her stamp on them. So what you see is essentially a completely unified vision of everything, from the rhythm of the editing to the sound to if you notice, one of the things about the Godfather is that uh, whenever a murder is taking place, there will be no background score at all. The minute the murder happens, then the trumpet or the background score actually starts. So all these are very, like very, very carefully decided choices. And they have Coppola written all over them because he did four masterpieces in the span of a decade. uh, I think that's enough to qualify him, and those four films are enough to qualify him as one of the greatest directors in Hollywood, even though he pretty much never matched up to those levels again.
But why do you think, like you said that he just made four masterpieces in a decade? But why do you think he hasn't made a great kind of film after the 80s?
I'm very fond of Bram Stoker's Dracula. I thought that was beautifully done, but it doesn't reach the level of, see, when you have four films on the basis of, at the levels of The Godfather, Godfather Part Two, Conversation, and Apocalypse Now. The market also changed because directors were no longer given the kind of monies that they were used to, and the studio executives started taking charge. Hollywood changed. Your 70s Hollywood was a very special place where they were getting a lot of inspiration from the European filmmakers. In fact, Coppola himself was very influenced by Visconti, uh, whose Leopard is one of the most famous Italian films of all time. So as the atmosphere started changing, people started wanting, post Star Wars especially, people started wanting like these summer entertainers, a little more than that. So The Coppola type of films where you had to kind of think, feel, those things became rarer and rarer. And today, they pretty much, if you made a movie like that, it would have to be with the art house arm of a studio rather than with the mainstream arm of studio, because nobody would finance a 3 hour movie about an Italian crime family today at that pace. Because like even today, when you look at when I teach some of my students and I show them scenes from The Godfather or from Citizen Kane or something like that, they say it's too slow. They've all become used to very, very fast cutting patterns and things like that. So I'm not saying it's their mistake, because time changes things, like we all change. But it's very special time. The 70s was a very special time. So in Hollywood, and I think Coppola really flourished in that atmosphere where he had nothing, like he could just pretty much do what he wanted, even if it meant as big a gamble as Apocalypse Now. Today, I don't think people take those kinds of massive gambles anymore on a mainstream film. It's like they take. I don't know if those kinds of gambles happen anymore. Right? It's more of safer filmmaking now.
But still, like there are films which are being made, like The Irishman, actually by Martin Scorsese. Still is
Yeah,
a
but that's a Netflix film, so you can make it on Netflix. You can't make it in theaters.
oh, okay. Oh wow. So yeah, that's the thing. But so even I also liked the cinematography, the yellow colors which were actually used in the film very much often in the interior scenes. What do you think about those? Like, why were the yellow colors actually used more often?
Yellow colors? No, for me, the cinematography is basically a kind of it's a Renaissance technique. It's a painting technique called chiaroscuro, where you kind of see dark shades and light shades together. So, like if you lit a candle at a corner of a room, you'd basically see light as reflected by that candle, which means that you would have the dark and the light together. And that's the technique, because you're talking about people who are part good and part evil. So the whole film becomes this browns and beiges and blacks, which are kind of which is a chiaroscuro, because even when the rooms are darkly lit, the outsides, like for instance, the contrast begins in the very first scene where you're talking about the conversations going on inside the Godfather's room, which is very, very darkly lit and you can barely make out the faces. And the outside where the wedding is taking place, which is full of sunshine and everybody's brightly lit. So right from then on, you get this contrast of the inside and the outside. Or even when you look at when Michael goes to hiding in Sicily, and that wonderful Sicilian sun is shining everywhere, because the mafia is no longer around him. But that's just like it's just wonderful, like things are good again. But then when he returns to America, things change again. So it's a very carefully planned film, yeah, with like all good movies, yeah.
But as a film critic, can you name some films which are actually influenced by this film?
Godfather.
Yeah, by The Godfather. Yeah.
Several, no, like why the most famous one would be Nayak, and probably in Tamil. A lot of these sprawling epics about crime families, Parinda, which is more on the waterfront, but you can also see kind of Godfather influences. It's a very influential film in the way it treated crime and families. So it's very hard to find films that did not, have that influence. Yeah.
Even Vasipur also.
Yeah, Gangs of Wasipur also to a large extent, though I would say Wasipur is more influenced by Hindi cinema than it is by Western cinema. But still, I would say that yeah, it's a there's a lot of films like that. Yeah.
Okay, so finally, was this your first, your favorite film of the trilogy?
No, actually, one and two together are my favorite films. I know it's cheating, but I can't see one without two and two without one. They kind of make this wonderful unified film together. And somehow I wish three had been made like one was in 70s 71, two was in 74, 75. I wish three had been made in the later part of the 70s, so that all three films would have pretty much had the same bunch of actors and the same bunch of kind of things. So for example, it's amazing how he mixed one and two together, so that the kind of the character that's introduced in one now becomes the younger person, and his mirror image becomes the older person, which is the son. So the father becomes the kind of the younger one, and the son becomes the older one at this age. And it's just a completely magical kind of see, creativity is such a hard thing, right? It's like some people have it for 10 years, some people have it throughout their life, some people have it for 5 years. It's very hard to define the creative process because you are not in control of it. Like, so, like, you really understand Rahman when he says, I don't, I just think of myself as a channel and the music comes from God. But even if you don't believe in God, nobody knows where creativity comes from, and you're just a channel because it's such an unconscious process. And for 10 years, that unconscious process was just brilliantly present in Coppola, and I think we all have to be grateful for that.
Wow, such a great thing to say. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming to my channel and coming to my podcast. It's been a real
Thanks so much for
pleasure.
having me. Thanks so much for having me, and hopefully we'll do something else soon.
Sure, sir. Sure. I'm hoping to like see you soon on discussing another great film.
Let's do that. Yeah. All right. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.